Hello again, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Flower Mound resident Will Fisher, who is running for the Democrat nomination for Congress in the 26th District in the March 2018 primary. Thank you for being here, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah, really happy to be here, thanks.
If you would begin by telling our viewers something about yourself, your education, occupation, etc.
Yeah, so I'm an attorney. I'm an in-house attorney, so I worked for several years as a law firm attorney doing M&A work, which is business transactions essentially, and decided I wanted to go in-house, which is, for those who don't know, it means I'm an employee of my client, which is a steel company that's based here in North Texas. And so I handle business transactions. I help keep them out of trouble and help them understand, how to comply with the law, and I enjoy it a lot. It's fulfilling.
Have you been in Flower Mound long?
Been here for about 4 years.
Ah.
Moved here in 2013.
Ah. Okay, how about if we do a rapid-fire series of questions based on the issues you cover on your webpage, and the webpage is www.willfisherforcongress.com. For example, what type of healthcare system do you support?
So on healthcare, I'm a major proponent of taking the cost of insuring America off of the backs of employers. So, I'm in business. I see directly the cost of providing insurance benefits to employees is mind-numbing. I mean, essentially the cost of hiring an employee is their salary, and then all the benefits, and that big chunk of benefits is often the cost of providing health insurance. And this is the main way that people have health insurance in this country, is through their employers. So in other words, to hire an employee, a business is looking at 130 to 150% of the cost of their salary. So I'm in favor of taking that off of the backs of employers, let employers hire people, compete, do what American businesses do best, which is compete, provide great goods and services at a competitive price, and paying for health care through a single-payer universal plan. Similar to TRICARE, if you know, like for retired military, right? They have TRICARE. So that's a form of a single-payer plan. Medicare is a form of a single-payer plan, in which you take the way medical health insurance works. These group plans is you take everybody that's in the pool. You have the healthiest people and the sickest people, and through some complicated math, they determine what the risk of that pool is, okay? And then they determine what the cost of the premium will be based on the risk of that pool. By having a single-payer universal plan, you include all the healthiest people, and you include the sickest people. You make sure those who are getting the health care that they need, but at an affordable price, because at the end of the day, you have all those healthy people that never never go to the doctor, right? And this is the best way that we have, and we've seen this. Australia has a single-payer universal plan that is very affordable. And at the end of the day, what we know is that in a true single-payer universal plan, 95% of Americans would pay less for health care than they currently do. Now, people might say, well, you're going to increase my taxes and this. Look, we pay for health care through a lot of different ways. We pay for health care through our taxes. We pay for it through premium, right? And if we have a single-payer universal plan, you're paying for it all through taxes. So yes, many people's taxes will go up, but then you're not paying through copays and deductibles and premium. And at the end of the day, again, 95% of Americans would pay less for health care. And that single-payer ends up having a lot of leverage to be able to negotiate prices for pharmaceuticals, for the cost of health care, which is just growing out of control in this country. We need to figure out a way to really gain control of that. And so far we haven't, but we can look around to our Western neighbors and see what other folks are doing that has worked. And there are some great models out there that we can follow.
Okay, how about your position on jobs?
Look, we've done a poor job in this country of growing the middle class. It's shrinking. The middle class, for years, there's been a lot of pressures on the middle class, and a lot of that's come from taxes. We tax the middle class more than we should. We don't incentivize growth of the middle class. What I'd like to see us do is go back to the type of policies that allows federal spending on things like infrastructure. Our infrastructure in this country is crumbling. I mean, it really is. This is not a partisan issue. The data is there. It is what it is. Our bridges are unsafe. We don't have things like high-speed rail in this country. In certain parts of the country, there's no broadband. People have to, there are very real stories of people having to drive to a Starbucks in order to send, health records to their doctor. So I'd like to see us spend on infrastructure development in this country, create blue-collar, middle-class jobs. We haven't had, blue-collar jobs. In other words, jobs that don't require a college education necessarily,
right.
that pay a middle-class wage. And I think we can do that again through infrastructure spending. You're going to create new industries that don't currently exist. You're going to incentivize people to go get training that they otherwise wouldn't. And I think that'll be a great boost to our economy.
All right, let's move on to your position on civil rights.
Okay, good. This is an area that a lot of people have fought for years, and we've made a lot of progress as a country in making sure that we live up to the creed of this country, which is that everybody should have the ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. There are folks who have more of an uphill battle than others. On civil rights, I would like to see us take some aggressive action to make sure that we shouldn't be jailing people in this country for nonviolent offenses. We have, again, we need to look to our neighbors sometimes for examples and understand that putting, let's say a young father into prison for a nonviolent offense, you know what that does to his family, his or her family? It basically puts them on welfare. It hits you and me in the pocketbook. It hits everyone. So when we talk about civil rights, we also need to realize that this is an issue that affects all of us. When we are going out there and deporting men and women because of their immigration status, do you know what that's doing? That's really breaking up families. So we need to be thinking about the effects that our actions take, the effect that our actions have on young families, working families in this country. The strength of our country is essentially the strength of working and middle-class families. So we need to stop breaking them up. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because for me, this is tied in tightly with the civil rights discussion. You can't separate the two.
And you also, on your website, you mentioned women's rights.
That's right.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I have 2 young girls who I want them to have every opportunity that I had growing up. I want them to have every opportunity for education, for jobs. I support the right of women to receive equal pay for equal work. And the question I ask is, what are we doing in this country to make sure that that's the case? Because right now it's not the case. Women doing the same job get paid approximately 70% on average. There's exceptions to everything. On average, get paid 70% of what their male counterparts are being paid. From my own selfish perspective as a father of 2 young daughters, that's not acceptable. That we need to be doing more to value women in this country, allow them to control their own lives, and allow them to earn a livable wage. We have a lot of single earner households where the mother is the single earner in that household, right? So it's in all of our interests to make sure that she is earning a livable wage and that she's getting paid equally for her work.
You also talk about the equality for the LGBT community.
That's right.
Go ahead, talk about that a little.
This is a really important issue for me. I believe that people should not be penalized for who they are. So I want to make sure that when we're talking about employment discrimination, housing discrimination, that people aren't penalized for identifying as LGBTQ. This is an issue that I'm passionate about. Fortunately, in this country, our Supreme Court has already determined that gay marriage is constitutional. I think we've moved past that issue, and now we're looking at issues like benefits. Should a same-sex couple be treated the same when it comes to benefits as a non-same-sex couple? And I would argue that yes. But it's important that we understand why that is. It's not in anyone's interest to degrade those families just because they don't look like ours. It's in everyone's interest that we build up and strengthen the core economic unit of this country, which is the family. Whether that family looks like yours or mine, to me, is beside the point.
They're all people. They're all Americans.
That's right.
How about voter suppression? You mentioned something about that.
It's a problem in this country. We have, unlike in a lot of countries, we have strict voter registration requirements, and often people get kicked off the rolls. and they go to vote and they're not even registered. As an American, the right to vote is a constitutional right. So I'm passionate about people being able to exercise that right and making sure that voting is easy. Voting should be easy, not hard. If we want real civic involvement, that's the direction we need to go.
Well, let me ask you, what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, I'm running in the Democratic primary, so first I'll address that. As an attorney, I'm directly involved in negotiating, in advocating, in taking the steps to reach the ends that my client is interested in reaching. I want to be an advocate for the people of the 26th Congressional District. So what does that mean? Legislating is more than just voting. It's more than just showing up and voting. You have to know how to be strategic, how to use strategy to reach your goals and those of your constituents, and to advocate for them. You can't just be there just to vote. As an attorney, I can do that from day one.
Well, I want to thank you for being here, Will.
It's been a pleasure.
And I want to wish you good luck in the campaign.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Good meeting you,
All right,
really.
thank you.
And thank you for watching.